Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's Bermuda Championship. It's storylines, it's best bets, it's one and done. And look who it is. It's Kyle Porter, KP. Welcome back.
Are we what's our setup today here, Rick? Where are you at?
This is officially my wife's office, which is on the opposite, on the western side of the house, because we are getting solar, Kyle, and that side is like they're drilling into my cranium, which did not seem like a great way to, produce a podcast, an audio medium.
What's the I have not dug too deep into this. Give me the short sell on solar. Like, is it, hey, you're going to recoup your money in 10 years? Is it like a environmental, like best for the environment? Like, give me the like 30-second pitch.
Yeah. So the short thing is, obviously this is for us in Las Vegas. So obviously some places it's a better deal than others. The environment is nice, right? Like we get to be a little bit more self-sufficient. We're using the sun that is constantly just destroying us here to our advantage. Two, you get a fairly sizable federal tax credit to go along with the no state income tax in the state of Nevada. It makes for a good deal. And you recoup it. So for us, we're the only two people that live here, so our electric bill isn't overly crazy. We'll recoup it in like 6 years.
Okay.
So we'll have no electric bill for like 6 years. Or no, we'll pay it all up front and have no electric bill ever again, and we'll recoup it in like 6 years.
No electric bill ever again and recoup. That's compelling, I think.
Yeah.
I think alternative sources of energy are, I can't believe we're talking about this, but are
this is
right up.
This is what happens off the rails
immediately
with you and I.
Every time I am only with another person, it's all over the yard. But I think alternative sources of energy like that are extremely compelling, and I can very easily be talked into them. Like it doesn't take a lot for me to be talked into stuff like that.
Yeah, and solar's constantly getting more efficient. So like if you got solar 10 years ago, there's probably something more efficient. There will be something even more efficient in 5 years. You know what I mean? So we're going to get what's available here, and it'll probably just get better over time.
So I don't know if this is how it is where you are, but people where I am, like in Texas and when we travel to Oklahoma, there's a ton of windmills, and people love to complain about them and whatever. And whether they like, I've always thought it's fascinating, because whether it works or doesn't work, it's like, hey, just like take some shots on like creating like energy sources that it just makes sense, right? Like I think I don't know, it just makes a lot of sense.
We should do it. Let's try it out.
Even if it doesn't work, it's like, well, I don't know, man. Like we're like trying to figure stuff out. Some stuff is not going to work.
Yeah, let's put conveyor belts on sidewalks and let people walk and generate energy like a giant hamster wheel. Let's try something here, people.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. I hope
maybe
so.
we need to hook up. Like, you remember the old Sports Center commercial where Lance Armstrong was powering the building with his bike?
Yes.
Maybe we can consolidate all the Pelotoners and just start a power grid. This stuff is for people. Don't even have to pay for this. Like, we're just giving them ideas for free. This is incredible.
Nowhere else can you get it. All these great power ideas, and there is a Seamus Power in the field this week. That is certainly my bridge back to the Butterfield Bermuda Championship and KP in our most recent tangent, where we went off trying to figure out the best player, the best player in each continent. That's actually now a real thing. Because you actually went and said, you know what? I'm going to make this official. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to go out, put some thought into this. The YouTube comments, they were a little wishy-washy on our original list. So now we get an opportunity to revise this, because on CBSSports.com right now, you have a piece up there where you have gone through each and every continent and figured out the best player. I'm just going to start at the top here. In true first cut fashion, Gary Player is the best player to ever come from Africa. And your note here also points out Ernie Els, probably in the mix, but it was Gary Player that gets the nod from you.
Yeah, it just the numbers are overwhelming. Even if you could like somehow make Ernie in 1998 compete against 1966 Gary Player, and I think Ernie would, like 1998 Ernie would beat that Gary Player. The numbers are so overwhelming that I couldn't go with anybody else. So it's Mr. Player from the continent of Africa.
Mr. Player from the continent of Africa, 9 majors, 24 PGA Tour wins, but here's the big boy, nearly 2,000, or excuse me, 200. I almost gave him too many. 200 wins globally. He would have liked that. Asia. This is what sparked this entire conversation. Is Hideki Matsuyama the best player ever from Asia? And in your piece here, he does indeed get your vote.
Yeah, I kind of went deeper on the research after we got done talking because I was interested. And there's a lot of guys that, like Jumbo Ozaki, won, I think it was like 90 times on the Japan tour, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, what Hideki is, and we landed on this on the podcast. It's not, I don't think, extraordinarily difficult. Like what Hideki has taken everything that's gone before him, whether it's KJ Choi or whoever, and just elevated it to win the Master. I mean, Wai Yang's the only other Asian player to win a major championship, and that was a PGA. To me, obviously the Masters, I think, is more revered as a major. So Hideki's just taken everything that everybody's done and just taken it up a level. So I think, yeah, it's definitely Hideki from which is crazy because he's 29, like we talked about. So he's got some room to kind of build on that over the next 10 years or so.
He's got some resume building still on tap, does Hideki Matsuyama, the best player ever from Asia, according to us. Europe. This has got to be the hardest one. Obviously, lots of great European players. You actually note in this article, could have been Nick Faldo with a look towards Rory McIlroy eventually taking over this honor, but it was neither of those two golfers that ended up for your European selection.
Yeah, it was. I went with Seve. We kind of talked through this. It was really hard because I think Faldo has a great case. Seve's the all-time European Tour wins leader. Him and Faldo both had 9 PGA Tour wins, and then Faldo had 6 majors to Seve's 5. They were both unbelievable in the Ryder Cup. I think Faldo actually has a few more total points than Seve does. But when you think about Ryder Cup, you think of Seve, right? So I think his like status or legend there is kind of outweighs Faldo's. But I think it's interesting. Like I'm curious from you, what would Rory have to do over the next, let's say, 12 years to become the best? Like, does he have to get to like, what if Rory wins the Masters next year? Is he the best Euro ever?
So this kind of goes with an argument that I would have made in North America that generally speaking, very generally speaking, the most current best to do X is the best to ever do X. Just because technology gets better, players get better, the competition in the world of golf
it's more difficult.
It's just so much better now. So I don't think that Rory has to necessarily come close to 90 wins globally, which he's not going to do, or 8 or 10 major championships. I don't think he has to do that. If he wins the Masters next year, for example, or at some point in his career, that's a much more compelling argument because he gets his name on a very short list of players to complete the career Grand Slam, and he's doing it in the modern game. If without that, he's got to win a couple more majors, right? That will be the key. And when you talk about greatest of a continent or greatest of all time, unfortunately, it is going to come down to those 4 tournaments a year. That is how all of these ties are going to be broken. But I generally don't think he has to do as much as other eras have done.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's difficult if the numbers. This is like Gary Player and Ernie Els. Like again, I think Ernie Els was probably like in a vacuum, just better at golf. But if your numbers are so overwhelming from it's not like, those guys played in like the 1800s. They played like 40 years ago. So if your numbers even from them are so overwhelming that, like, I think they can be overwhelming enough to make up like kind of the gap that you're talking about there. But with Seve and Faldo, the numbers compared to Rory are not like that overwhelming. And so I'm with you. I think that if Rory wins, even like, what if he wins St. Andrews next year? You could talk me into like, okay, that's it. Like, he's the best Euro ever. Definitely, if he wins Augusta, I could be talked into it. I don't. It's and the crazy part again, like kind of with Hideki, it's close. Like, it's close to Rory being like the guy from Europe. I would still put, I think, Seve and Faldo ahead of him, which I haven't in the past with Seve. I think I've always said Faldo's been the best, but I think I would still put those two guys ahead of them, and with Rory potentially getting there in the next 5 or 10 years.
Right. That's still plenty of work left to do, or still plenty of time left for Rory to put in changes to his resume. We spent about 3 seconds on North America on, I guess that would have been Sunday's pod, and we just quickly said, Tiger Woods, let's move on. And someone in the comments said, go back and check Wikipedia. Have you ever heard of this guy named Jack Nicklaus? Which I had to Google, Kyle, as you know, to find out who this Jack guy was. I mean, come on. Yes, I understand Jack Nicklaus. It's Tiger. I could have spent more 3 seconds here as well and just moved on.
Yeah, it's the same argument we were just making, right? Like, if Nicklaus would have had to have won like 25 majors to overwhelm like the fact that Tiger almost has caught him in a much better era.
Correct.
I don't know about much better, in a better era.
Well, maybe not the start of it, but yeah, now it's much better.
Now it's much better. I think that, I mean, my argument for that has always been like, you put more money in an industry, that industry is going to get more competitive. And it's hard because Tiger was like kind of the catalyst for more money entering the industry. And so he caught like the tail end of that, like at the end of his career. I don't know that he caught it as much at the beginning of his career. I think the trajectory was it wasn't that far. I mean, there was more money, but it was almost like an inflation thing, like at the beginning of Tiger's career. But then when you started like bumping it up a ton, all of a sudden the industry gets way more competitive. But it takes a while to realize it, because like, it takes a while for Justin Thomas to become 22 years old or 25 years old, so it takes, I think there's some runway there for it to actually become more competitive. All that to say, Nicklaus's numbers to me are not so overwhelming that you can put him ahead of Tiger's just better at golf, and the numbers are close enough that I think you can fairly easily say that Tiger is the best ever, not only from North America, but in the history of the game.
Yes, and that is what you described is so generally when, like, everybody wants to have a conversation about who's the GOAT with this, the GOAT that. Everybody wants to have that conversation. I in general lean towards, again, 2 things. 1, the best doing it right now, or 2, the person who changed the game like the most. Like, if you usher in a new era of your sport, you might be the greatest of all time. For example, Babe Ruth might be the greatest of all time. He was hitting home runs alone of what team totals were. Wayne Gretzky might be, I mean, certainly, right, the greatest of all time. His numbers are insane. He ushered in a new scoring era. Tiger Woods obviously ushering in a new golf era. Like, you could argue, we can have the LeBron, Michael Jordan debate. Like, I'm all up for that. But there is part of me that would argue more that, like, we might look back in 20 years and it might be Steph Curry. Because Steph Curry, like, if we get to a point where everyone's Steph Curry,
love this take.
If we get to a point where everyone's Steph Curry, then maybe the greatest of all time was Steph Curry. Like, that's the kind of way I do this.
Have you heard Brandl's thing on Tiger and Jack?
I don't know. I don't think so.
So we may have talked about this, but I'm not sure. He says that not only was Tiger better, but I can't remember specifically, but he basically went back and did strokes gained at I think like at majors, because you can do strokes gained in the Nicklaus era, even though you don't have like shot length, you can just do it based on leaderboard. And Tiger's number is just like, it's like double Nicklaus's. I don't know if it's majors or overall. I can't remember. I think it was majors. And so Brando calls him like twice as good as Nicklaus, and I'm like, I don't like, I understand the math, but I don't know if I'm willing to go that far. But I understand what he's saying, right? Like if Jack Nicklaus is 1.5 strokes better than the field at the 120 majors that he played in, or I think he played in like 160, and Tiger is 3 strokes better than the field in his major appearances, you're like, oh, Tiger's twice as good as Jack Nicklaus. But I don't know that to me doesn't seem linear. Like, I don't know that you can actually go down that path, but I think it's an interesting argument, and I think it kind of speaks to what we're getting at.
That's one of these things where he's not wrong, but he's also not right in saying that Tiger
totally 100%.
Oceania, which we learned what that was on Sunday, and it is 14 countries that make up Oceania. A few to name: New Zealand, Australia, Fiji, Samoa, Papua New Guinea, Micronesia. They're all involved. And you came away from that region with a 2-time major winner, a man with 90 wins worldwide, 20 PGA Tour victories, one Greg Norman.
Yeah, this was actually the hardest one. This was harder than Sevi and Nick Faldo to me. I had originally written out VJ. I think we settled on VJ on Sunday.
Did. Yeah.
And I wrote the whole thing out, and I couldn't shake the fact that so Norman had a better PGA Tour winning percentage. He was like 6%. He won 6% of the time. He was like 20 for, I don't know, whatever 6%. 20 for 300, maybe. I don't know. I think that's it. 20 for 300. So help us out with the math, Jacob, producer Jacob. And VJ was like 5.5 or something. Now, some of that is VJ playing like forever and Norman not. Right. Like VJ is obsessed, and like, you know, all the stories about him just being crazy about the sport, and Norman being like, okay, I'm good. I'm out. So it was some of that's probably a little unfair to VJ. It was really, really good. And I could be talked into VJ. I don't feel super strongly about this. But then the other thing was Greg Norman played 91 major championships. And if you look on Wikipedia, it breaks it down by top 5, top 10, top 25, which I think is a good way to do it. And he had a 20, 30, and almost 50 like stat line, if you will, for top 5s, top 10s, and top 25s. So 20 top 5s, 30 top 10s, which is about a third of them. 48 top 25s out of 91 major championships. And that's unbelievable. And I value that type of play at majors, I think, more than I do. There you go. 20, 30, 48. More than I do just the straight up, how many wins did, like VJ had more major wins, but I value this stat line more than I do the wins comparison.
And I like that so we're looking on YouTube or watching on YouTube, 91 major championships here. I like the like, you know, he was not terrible in any of these, right? You look at his top 10s, 9 at the Masters, 5 at the US Open, 10 at the Open Championship, 6 at the PGA Championship. It's not like he made his hay at one of these or 2 of these events. He was very well-rounded in these 91 major championships.
Yeah, and 10 top 2s, which is crazy. 10 top 2 finishes. I think the other thing is like he won 2 Opens, and I think VJ won 2 of his 3 were PGAs. Or did he win 2 Masters? I can't remember.
I'd have to look it up.
Send help, producer Jacob.
Send help. By the way, 6% of victories and 20 wins would be about 333 starts.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because, I mean, Norman won a bunch on the Euro Tour as well. I mean, VJ played twice as many PGA Tour events as Greg Norman did. I think VJ's at like 630 40 or something PGA Tour starts. But Norman did a lot of his damage, on the Euro Tour, which I don't know. I mean, you could argue that if he played more on the PGA Tour, he would have won more. I think that's a pretty easy argument to make. Do we have the major thing, producer Jacob?
Yeah, I totally wasn't checking my email. Were you looking for VJ's major breakdown?
Yeah.
2 PGAs and Masters.
2 PGAs. Okay. So the PGAs is, even though it's been the most exciting major, I think it's probably, we can agree, the least of them. And Greg Norman has 2 Opens. And then obviously VJ has the Masters. So I don't know. I mean, again, I could be talked into VJ, but I just went ahead and went with Greg Norman.
Greg Norman takes Oceania, which leaves us with finally South America. And we were scrambling on Sunday to throw some names out for South America. As you point out in your article here on CBSSports.com, by far the weakest of the 6 continents, which made this difficult. And you came up with a name that we did not talk about, and it's Roberto De Vincenzo.
It is. I'm glad you said it, and I just call him RDV. So I forgot about him, and it's really between him and Angel Cabrera. I ended up going with him, even though he only has 1 major to Angel's 2. He does have, I think it was 7 PGA Tour wins. Cabrera only has 3. I think he won. He won a trio that'll never be. Will never, like, this trio will never be won again. I mean, it can't be because this is no longer a tour event, but Angel Cabrera won Greenbrier, he won Oakmont, and he won Augusta National. Those are his 3 PGA Tour
Impossible
wins.
to do. Yeah.
Now, I don't know how to say it. Dave Vicenzo. I think you can.
It's got to be De. Actually, I think I threw an extra N in there. It's not Vincenzo. It's De.
I think it's
Vicenzo.
Vicenzo. Okay.
Vicenzo.
So yeah. he famously, I think it was 1968, signed a bad card at Augusta. He was going to be in a 18-hole playoff on Monday. Signs a bad card, loses the Masters, and famously said, he's the one that said, I think he said, I'm such a stupid, or I made such a stupid, or something like that.
Said, what a stupid I am.
What a stupid I am. There you go. And that's just
great quote.
It sucks. It sucks, right? Like, it's terrible. But his major record was good. He didn't play in that many. I think he played in 44, if I'm remembering correctly. And he had a bunch of top 10s and top 25s. And his 44 were spread out over the course of like 30 years. He had a really weird kind of major career. So I don't know. I mean, on Hill, obviously, Oakmont Augusta is an unbelievable duo. But I went with Dave Vicenzo over him, just because I feel like overall he was a little bit stronger.
17 top 10s in 44 starts in major championships. Obviously, very impressive stuff. What could start this week, Kyle, could be a path for someone else to take over top South American player of all time. Because
great segue. I love
thank
this.
You. I'm getting so good at these. Because Mito Pereira is one of the favorites to win the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. We have been infatuated with him in the kind of DFS and gaming realm since he came up last year when he got the 3-win promotion. But he is legitimately one of the better ball strikers that we've seen since he's come up. And this is like, there's a reason that people are excited about him for this week.
For sure. I think the argument against him is kind of the argument against Jon Rahm at the US Open last year, right? Remember, the argument was like, well, it seems too obvious. You're like, well, is that a good argument? I don't know. I mean, maybe it is, but
it didn't turn out to be.
No, not at all. And Mito is not, he obviously he's not playing at a Jon Rahm level, but this field is not close to a US Open field. So, I think he hasn't finished that great in his last 2. I think his last 2 starts, is it? I think he was outside the top
place finishes or something.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it would not be surprising at all if Mito Pereira won this week, and it certainly wouldn't be surprising if he finished top 5 or top 10. So I'm excited about it. I think it's it's a real opportunity for him to kind of take over a tournament a little bit in a field that's really just not very good.
Well, he is. We talk about this a little bit. Winning being a skill, and that is something we've seen from Mito. 3 wins last season on the Corn Ferry. So he's won 3 times in his last 43 starts, which obviously all of those were coming on the Corn Ferry, and his most recent starts are on the PGA Tour. But I mean, even the Olympics, he was in that playoff for a bronze medal. I mean, this is a guy that since basically the start of the year has been playing very competitive golf. That's the way I want to phrase this. Competitive golf in whatever field he's in. That's a skill.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I think I'm curious, I was thinking about this. I'm curious about, because there's other guys in this field that kind of thrived on the Corn Ferry last year. So it's Hayden Buckley and I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. Chad Ramey. I'm curious about, are there guys outside of Pereira that for you as a deeper DFS guy get excited about, or is it like Pereira and everybody else?
So I kind of view this as a couple of different ways. I'm very excited about a lot of the Corn Ferry Tour guys, especially because they're essentially a year behind. A lot of them we probably should have seen a year ago. They're very good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like they're very good at golf. So I am excited about them. What I like about Mito, obviously all the ball striking stuff, but he's got a 12 event head start. You know how this goes when you get on the PGA Tour and every spot is new for you. You don't know where the locker rooms are. You don't know where dining is. You don't there's just a learning curve to being on any new tour. He's like a 12 event head start on everybody else as they're starting to figure it out. When you look at skill sets, Hayden Buckley is exciting, but I'm not sure what he is yet. So I've only got 24 measured rounds on him in the database, and the last 10 have been awesome. The 14 before that, pretty horrible. We're going to find out, I think, what he is very quickly. I think he's probably the one, him and maybe Steven Jaeger. Jaeger's kind of, I think he's kind of special. We'll see.
Yeah. Jaeger, for me, the problem is he's just so old. I mean, he's not old, but he's he's been around for a while. And so it's more difficult for me to kind of envision what he could become, because it feels like it's just kind of what it is. The guy for me that I would throw in there that you're kind of the way you're talking about is Sahith Theegala.
Yeah.
Because I think, he's somebody that the pedigree is great. And we'll talk more. I've got him in some of my stuff later on, but he hits it well, or he has recently. But again, he's somebody who, you look at the numbers and we just don't have that much on him. I think he's played 19 events as a pro or something like that, maybe fewer than that. But he goes out and kind of thrives a little bit early on in the season. And, Data Golf has him top 100 in the world, whereas the OWGR has him as outside the top 350. So you're well, that feels a little Zalatoris-y, from this time last year. I'm not saying that he's going to rise to be a top 25 player, but that's the guy that for me, I'm this is interesting. I wonder how this is going to play out over the next 12 months.
What Sahith has going for him, and we've seen this with other golfers, is again kind of like Mito, where he's contended in every single all levels. Sahith has been so highly regarded at all levels, right? I mean, he won a bunch of amateur events. He goes to Pepperdine. I feel like he's been on the radar so long for someone who was only born in 1997, right? He's 23 years old, but I feel like he's been on everyone's radar for so long that we're finally seeing it come to fruition here on the PGA Tour. I'm excited. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to get out of him. This is obviously the highest level, but I am excited. We saw flashes of it at Sanderson. I think he made it. He was leading going into Sunday. Was that Sanderson?
Yeah, I think I had him as my sleeper there, and I think he was second after round 1 or something like that, and really kind of played well throughout. But again, if you go try and look up his numbers, there's just not, I mean, it's just hard. You can get some finishes and a little bit of overall strokes gained stuff throughout the Corn Ferry and college career, but there's just not, the sample size is just so small that you're I don't know what to do with this. It looks good when you compare it, or when you pair it with his college resume and his pedigree and all that stuff, but it's difficult to kind of project it out, I think.
Yeah. So we'll see how these guys fare this week. They they might be wet and blown around by this wind, because the forecast doesn't look great here. KP, Wednesday, 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. I'm no meteorologist. That seems like a lot. There's rain in the forecast, and there are essentially winds, let's call it 15 to 20 with gusts of 25 all week long.
Yeah, and I think this plays into the hands of the favorite a little bit. Matt Fitzpatrick, if you go back and look at some of, obviously he hadn't won on the PGA Tour, but places that he's thrived, Bay Hill a couple of years ago. Remember when Terrell Hatton won and it was so windy and just kind of nasty, and he played, Matt Fitzpatrick played really well. And I think there's a quote I remember him saying at Bay Hill that year about like, hey, I love it like this, which doesn't totally add up to me, because he's not like this guy that you think about like just compresses the ball. He's not. I think especially off the tee, like he just kind of lacks some pop. Like he's not an elite ball striker, but he seems to play great in that kind of bad weather. So I actually think he's a little undervalued because of that, even though he's the favorite going into this week.
Yeah, Caesars has him at 14 to 1 right now to win the tournament. He has the shortest odds in this field, which we should probably get to. We should probably get to our best bets, our expert picks, and of course, our one and done selections. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. Time for best bets. Kyle, we went 3-1 as a crew last week. I believe I don't have it in front of me, but you were victorious in a 3-ball. It was somebody over 2 South African players. Do you remember who it was?
It was Colin Morikawa over Garrett Higo
EVR?
and EVR. Yeah.
How did that happen? How did Morikawa, EVR, and Higo get into a 3-ball? But you saw it and you said...
It was like minus 120, minus 110.
Yeah. Wild stuff. Well,
it's free money.
Apparently. And this week, you have foreshadowed a bit of your best bet. What is it, sir?
Yeah, I've got Sahith Theegala over Denny McCarthy. I think Theegala is a pretty good ball striker. And I like pitting somebody like that against a McCarthy who just relies on the putter and his short game so heavily. Now that can go badly, because when McCarthy gets hot, it's like super hot. But he doesn't, he'll pop up every once in a while. I think I just trust Theegala more in a head-to-head matchup like this.
Yeah, Denny struggled a little bit, which is a shame, because it looked like he was making strides in some of the ball striking categories. Oh man, I guess it was like 6 months ago at this point, and it never really came to fruition. And yeah, relying on the putter is not always a consistent path to success on the PGA Tour. He's missed 2 of his last 3 cuts. His last top 10 was,
I think, Wyndham.
Honda. He was T15 at Wyndham. T15 at Wyndham. Honda was T3. That was in January or February or March, or April or May. I could just keep going through this. When was it?
It was in yeah, it was right after the Players Championship. That field was almost as bad as this one.
Hey, now,
do you know who won the Honda this year? Do you remember?
Michael Thompson.
No.
What did Michael Thompson win? The 3M? Don't tell me. I know who won the Honda. Sungjae won it 2020. So yeah. 2021 Honda. God,
I only know. I looked it up today.
I'm gonna hate myself when you say this. Jacob knows.
I think I remember. Was it Journeyman Australian? Am I crazy?
That's right.
I'm blanking on the name.
Matt Jones.
Matt Jones.
Yeah. I wouldn't have gotten that. I'm glad you came and saved me, Jacob. I would have not gotten there on Matt Jones. I'm going with Patrick Rodgers, minus 118 over Hank Lebioda. As much as I love Hammer and Hank, since he had that great run of top 10, since he had to withdraw on a Friday for a personal reason, since he came back, he hasn't been good. He's missed every single cut since. Patrick Rodgers is kind of a rare type of golfer, KP. You don't always get a guy on tour whose 2 best clubs are the longest club in the bag, his driver, and his shortest club in the bag, the putter. Those two things don't usually always vibe together. Patrick Rogers does that. So minus 118, I'll take Rogers over Libiota.
Does it concern you that this is a course that doesn't really reward driving distance? Because I looked at Rogers and that's so much of his skill set that I kind of waffled on it a little bit.
So all of it concerns me. Yes, everything about this field and these selections, yes, they concern me. I'm just banking on like he's played well. He had a good finish at the Fortnite. I think it was a top 10 there. He had actually played the Korn Ferry finals. I think the Tour Championship for them last year, played well there. I'm just banking on Patrick Rogers being a better player than Hank Lebiotis in this moment.
I think that's fair.
Because really, a lot of the guys that are like really good, like perfect course fits, don't have a lot of great, like, Brian Gay has just been horrendous between his two finishes at the Bermuda Championship, and Brian Stewart like should fit this course but doesn't play well. I mean, this is a really difficult week to handicap.
That's why I like Fitzpatrick this week, because he just kind of fits it nicely. He's coming in off a win. The weather plays into his hands. It just seems he seems to be checking a lot of boxes that. Like you said, some other guys that at least their statistical profile fits, but maybe they're not playing as well or are bad win players or whatever.
Speaking of Fitzpatrick, as we enter the expert picks segment, Fitzpatrick has earned the winner distinction from both Mark and Coach. Now, Kyle, you and I have gone a different direction. We'll save that, and we'll start with our sleepers here. So your sleeper, this is a fun one. Your sleeper for the Bermuda Championship is a name that people are going to know.
Yeah, some win equity. Jason Dufner, Duff Daddy. He, if you look at Tee to Green over his last 20 rounds, he's been really good compared to the rest of this field. Now the problem is his last 20 rounds spans like 4 months because he doesn't play very much. So that concerns me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, look, he's always been a great ball striker, and it's a course that you don't have to be, like we talked about, you don't have to be crazy long. I think he's interesting at 70-1.
Last 5 measured starts. Yeah, this dates back to July for
I think it's the John Deere or something.
Yeah, so Tee to Green numbers, +10, +6, +4, +5, +3. He is doing Duff Daddy things, and believe it or not, like his last 4 starts, like if he's a -1 with the putter, like that's what you want. Like it is so, because you can lose 5, 6, or 7 in a week, and it can get ugly pretty quickly. So Jason Dufner, sleeper for Kyle. I'm going with Dylan Wu. I might have typed that wrong in the outline. I'm going with Dylan Wu, who won on the Korn Ferry late last season. Again, this is where, so I find it interesting. You went with a seasoned savvy vet. I went with a guy now up from the Korn Ferry Tour, which I think is really a big part of the storyline for like this part of the schedule. You get these journeymen who are trying to earn FedEx Cup points or trying to hang on or whatever. And you get these young guys who are chomping at the bit to go out there and make some noise. And those are, we picked out 2 perfect examples of that.
Yeah, totally. And I'm curious, I saw you said on Twitter, like, this is a great week to not skip out playing DFS, making picks like this. I'm curious about, I think I understand why, but I'm curious about like how you would kind of explain that.
The way that I interpret this essentially is golf or any sport, and fantasy and or betting for me is a data game. And most or weeks where you get major championships, for example, the players, the casual players, the people who are entering lineups know a lot more about the players that they're rostering. They know who John Rahm is. They know who Jordan Spieth is. They can name the top 20 players in the field. When you look at this field, you can't really name a lot of these guys if you're a casual fan, but those casual fans still enter lineups because it's still football season and they're still on their favorite fantasy site of choice entering lineups. And for the people who are doing a little bit more research, who have been following some of these guys from the Korn Ferry, who are aware of trends and the way that certain players fit, I think it gives them an edge this week. So I think most people will say, oh, the field's weak, I don't want to play. I say, oh, the field has a lot of unknowns. That's good for people who have data and research.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's hard to outdata John Rahm, right?
Correct. Right.
Like, and that's where like I'm tooting my own horn, but like when Colin Morikawa is 40-1 to win a major, I mean, it's what we've talked about with Rory, right? You're trying to find these inefficiencies or these like little like small outliers, and it seems like those margins, because this applies to the odds makers too, right? Like they know less at an event like this, and so the margins of like the difference between what a player's odds are and what they should be is wider here than it is at a major championship. So if your data is actually really good, then you can kind of find more inefficiencies than you would at a US Open.
And I know that Caesars is the only sports book in existence on the planet, but if there were other sports books available, you would probably see a lot of different numbers for different guys. Somebody might be 25-1 here and 45-1 at Caesars. And that tells you that books, they're inefficient. They don't have enough information. They're doing a lot of guessing. These are the weeks that, like, anytime sports books are guessing, you're at the advantage.
Totally. And having any information suddenly becomes more valuable.
Right.
Because so that's interesting.
That's my take.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I'm going with Dylan Will. Kyle's going with Jason Duffner. Mark and Coach have sent in theirs as well. Mark's is going with Russell Knox. He'll be a popular player this week, 40-1. And how about this? Coach actually likes Denny McCarthy this week. He's going with Denny McCarthy at 40-1 for his sleeper.
That's so short. That number is really short for me.
It's tough when McCarthy's usually 80-1 and now he's 40-1. Like there's a lot of guys like that.
I would have been surprised even if he was like 50, He
hasn't played well.
No, he is not.
Top 10s. Let's stick with Coach and Mark here. Coach is going with Ryan Armour. Makes sense if you're going with course fit. Plus 500 to be inside the top 10. And KP, Mark is going with Christian Bezuidenhout plus 175, which I looked it up in my database. I could not find another instance of Bezuidenhout being nearly as short as he is this week. He is currently 16-1 at Caesars.
I'm shocked that Mark went with a South African in the top 10.
Right. I know.
I cannot believe it.
Shock of the century.
I mean, he's what, second shortest odds in the field, third maybe.
Second, yeah, right behind Matt Fitzpatrick.
Behind Fitzpatrick. Again, it's a little, I think it's probably like good course fit. Although I don't know, I don't know. I don't know if there's like a bad course fit this week. I was reading something. I saw a quote from somebody. I think it might have been Brendan Todd about how like everybody just kind of plays from the same position, right? Like off the tee. Or on their second shot or whatever, because it's hard to not do that, I think, based on the way the course is set up. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overvaluing kind of statistical fit with Fitzy this week.
No such thing as overvaluing statistical fit, Kyle. Your top 10 is a man that we mentioned just earlier, and you're getting 4.5-1 odds on him.
Yeah, Sahith Theegala. I mean, he's got what, a couple of top 20s in his last couple starts. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but he's been playing well, and I really like him this week.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to the Korn Ferry like playoffs and then the finals, his last 5 are T4 6th. Now he transitioned to the PGA Tour. T47 at the Fortinet, T8 at the Sanderson. Missed the cut at the Shriners, which is very easy to do. I don't know what he shot, but 6 or 7 under par is what it takes.
3 of his last 5 top 10 across both tours. And this is,
correct.
I mean, look, this is a Korn Ferry event, right? Like field wise, it's not better than it's probably not better than the Korn Ferry finals, to be honest.
So I'll tell you, the strength of field for this week is a 68. The Korn Ferry Tour Championship was what did I say this week was? 68?
68.
42. Close enough.
Okay. So it's not that much worse. So yeah, I love the goal.
I'm going with Seamus Power, top 10 plus 260. I love Mito. I love Seamus Power. Okay, this is the stat I was rolling out there. Last 50 rounds for every single player on the PGA Tour, Seamus Power is 12th. That is amongst the who's who of golf. And he is very accurate off the tee, at least among those who have been playing as well as he has. I think back to when I followed his group here in Vegas out at Paiute, and it was blowing about 35 or 40 miles an hour, and he was a ball striking machine. And I'm thinking, let it go in Bermuda. Let it blow. No problem. Seamus Power will find a way.
Yeah, I think it's a good stat. I think the pushback is like, well, that includes probably a handful of opposite field events, right? I know it includes
the big one is his win.
Barbasol, yeah. But yeah, I think there's a reason he's top 5 in terms of shortest odds because he's been playing great.
So what this week is a 64. Barbasol was never mind.
This week is 68.
68. I don't want to say
what was the Barbie? What was it? 30?
17.
Oh my gosh. Really?
How's that possible? 17?
Does having like a couple of top 50 guys this week just elevate it that much?
Yeah, it has to, right?
Because I think Reed and Fitzpatrick are the top 50 guys.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's probably it. Yeah. That's less than half of the Korn Ferry Tour Championship.
Yeah, I was not expecting to see 17. That did not help my anxiety for this week.
That's fine.
All right. So just to recap. Oh, no, wait, we got to do winners. So as I mentioned, Mark and Coach went with Matthew Fitzpatrick. Kyle, you and I are going with Mito Pereira. Let's not overthink this.
Yeah. 25-1, just a ball striking fiend. I'm fired up for it. Let's get it. That leaves us finally with the one and done. Let's start at the bottom. It's not the coach. It's Sia Najad, 155,625. Oh boy. Sia and I are on the same page this week. Sia's going with, I'm nervous. Sia's going with Seamus Power, which obviously I like. So Sia hopefully will be cashing in on some big bucks, which by the way, it's like 1.1 million for first this week. Yeah. And it's a master's berth, right? Because when the HSBC champions got canceled, they bumped, or I guess they kept, because it was a full field of, or it was a full, whatever you call it, status event last season, and it is again this season. So, somebody's going to get in the Masters this week that probably wasn't already in.
Oh yeah, almost. I don't want to say certainly, but
unless Reed wins or Fitzpatrick or Danny Willett, or that might be it.
Yeah, that might be it. It really might be it. Yeah, good call there. So Kyle, you're next. 375,000. Now you will not make up much ground on the field this week because you are taking a popular player. But just like we saw with Hideki last week, once you start, you got to get some money here in the coffers.
Yeah. So my problem here, I knew a lot of people would pick Fitzpatrick, and I wanted to go Mito, but I actually can envision myself taking Mito elsewhere later in the year, and I don't know that I can with Fitzpatrick, because Fitzpatrick plays a pretty good schedule, and you're not going to take, he's just not very good at majors. It's going to be hard to take him somewhere. And Mito might play a little bit worse schedule to where it would be easier to take him at a Colonial, a Byron Nelson, somewhere that's a little bit worse off. So that was kind of my thinking there.
I'm so glad you said that, because I'll tell you in a second. So above Kyle, Greg, 1.7 million, also went with Matt Fitzpatrick. Coach, 1.9 million, also went with Matt Fitzpatrick. I'm next, 2.2, I'll round up, million. And I was between Seamus Power and Mito Pereira, and I had the same exact conversation with myself where I said, I'm so bullish on Mito. I might be using him later. I might be able to find a really good spot for him later. Seamus Power, I like this week, and I've got no plans to use him ever again. So I went with Seamus Power, but I had the same conversation with myself that you did.
Yeah, totally. I want to hear about this next pick. I want to hear some.
Yeah. So here he comes. Producer Jacob. Producer Jacob's at
Go
2.3
Braves.
million, which is, I mean, quite honestly, the best position he has been in since we've started this, and he must be feeling himself, must be feeling pretty confident. Please divulge to the world your one and done selection for this week's Bermuda Championship.
Well, I think I've already eclipsed my total from last year, which is
That
just
might be true.
absolutely great. So what we're doing is we're playing with house money. I'm gonna drop a little sprinkle on Aaron Rye here for my one and done. I mean, I totally agree with you guys say about Mito. Like keeping him in the bank feels like the logical thing to do. And my other thinking was just like everyone's gonna be rolling with Fitzpatrick, which I guess we all did with Hideki last week, and it worked. So just sort of like that gambler's fallacies kicking in of just like, well, let's, for surely it can't work twice again, immediately back to back. So I'm going to go with Aaron Rye. I mean, if you look at where he's had success before, it's on these little short courses where, you can dink and dunk, poke the ball around. The guy is used to wearing 2 gloves if the weather's going to be as bad as they say it is. And I was texting with Greg Ducharme, getting my pick on the record with him earlier today. I mean, the guy uses the iron covers.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he gets knocked for being a square, but I mean, my guy's going to have the blades perfectly dry for this week whenever the rain starts coming down. He's an Englishman, as is Fitzpatrick. I looked it up. Bermuda is a British overseas territory, so technically a home game if you believe in the home game factor. Which I don't know how much you weight that, Rick. But I think the general consensus here is that we might see sort of a little Linksy open conditions breakout, which I'll take more Aaron Rye. I mean, the recent PGA Tour form has been terrible. I mean, yes, I think he's missed 3 straight cuts on the tour in this season. So, I acknowledge that, but this is the Bermuda Championship.
Listen, the more you talk, the less I believe in this pick. You just keep saying things, and I keep not believing you.
Well,
is this technically the 3rd continent in 3 weeks on the tour? I guess Bermuda's technically on. I'm deep in the continents game, as you know, but I guess,
yeah, you are.
I mean, it would be the Caribbean, I think.
So it's technically North America, but it's a British
North America, right?
But it's a British
overseas territory. Yeah, it's in the. I mean, it's a bit more parallel with. I mean, it's almost in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, it's not. I don't think Caribbean is like the best descriptor for. I mean, if you go like just pretty much due east from Charleston, South Carolina, out, you'll end up in Bermuda.
You should swim it.
No, thank you.
Yeah. I love this event because it gets done so early.
Atlantic time, baby.
It's great.
That threw me off.
Like,
yeah.
I love that time. That's tough for you, Rick, but I think it starts at like 2 a.m. your time.
Yeah, it's 4 hours difference, I think. I had so many things I don't even remember what they were. I can't knock at least the research. That was a lot of research you put into that. If he wins, I'll buy iron covers and I'll rock those for a year.
Well, I'm getting knocked for my iron covers, which I don't use, in the comments. What is that?
David is our resident troll, I think. Which it actually worked out well for the coach the other day. What color are your iron covers? First of all, not that I know much research about iron covers. Don't they only come in black?
I mean, I've seen iron covers on one person in real life, and it may or may not be an anchor on CBS Sports HQ.
Oh, you told us who this is, and I can't remember who it was.
It's
not Joe Musso, was it?
I won't.
No, it's not Joe.
No, it's not Joe.
Oh, I know.
I won't publicly disclose. I don't want to shame him. I don't know if he's changed since. It's been a while since I've played golf with him, but there is.
I can guess.
Yeah.
So not good. I don't have iron covers. Get out of here with that.
Jacob is going with Aaron Rye, and I'll rock iron covers if he wins it. Jacob's at 2.3 million, which is about, let's see, 1.1 million behind Mark. That is who we're all chasing. He's going with Matt Fitzpatrick. And I mean, Mark is when he's atop the one and done standings, he's a different guy.
It's miserable.
We've really
It's the
got to fix
worst.
this.
So wait, hold on. We got to go back to this because on the early edge we do these showdown bets, right? So if we take Rye versus Fitzpatrick, you said if Rye wins, is this just sort of in a head-to-head? You'll rock the iron covers in one of your vlogs. I think that should be the wager.
So now it's a head-to-head. I thought it was a
shot. that got twisted in a hurry. That was not even close to what Rick said.
Well, I mean, that people are dropping out of this event like flies. This is like quickly going to become like a no cut event. So,
okay. Here's what I'll do. If Aaron Rye beats Matt Fitzpatrick in a matchup, which he's probably, if I were to set that line, or if Caesars, it'd be like minus 250. Okay, so like 67%, maybe a little bit higher than that. I'll use iron covers in an upcoming Rick Run Good vlog. It'll be so annoying. I'll do it though.
Let's do it.
All right.
I don't have to do anything because
you get a free roll somehow.
Yeah,
that's a good bet. That's good. That's fun.
Yeah,
I'm still being called out for iron covers, guys. I don't use iron covers. I don't know what to tell you.
Where did that start? Why do people think that?
I don't know. I also don't really play golf that much, which I probably shouldn't admit that. But I have 4 kids. Like I don't have time.
You've played Augusta National.
I can't keep hanging my hat on something that happened 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago.
Just to recap, one and done selections from the bottom up: Sia Najad, Seamus Power, Kyle, Matt Fitzpatrick, Greg, Matt Fitzpatrick, Coach, Matt Fitzpatrick, Rick, Seamus Power, Jacob, Aaron Rye, Mark, Matt Fitzpatrick.
Rick, have you heard my Augusta story from 15?
Start telling it. Let's find out.
I asked my caddy to film it because I just smoked a drive and I thought I was going to make an eagle.
Oh, wait. Was this? I've seen the shot. Wait, is this
Okay.
your approach on to like 15?
Yeah, I accidentally laid up.
So it was the chunkiest. Not that I would have done anything different.
I
it was like full sod.
Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't like cover my ball up with it. I stood over it. I stood over it for, I don't know, like 45 seconds. It was horrible.
Yeah, I was like, oh, is this video not started yet? Oh, no, it's 35 seconds in. Kyle hasn't moved. He's still addressing his ball.
I have a friend who played Augusta today.
Ooh.
And he has a video of himself. So his front left pin on 16.
Oh, okay.
He has a video hitting his shot like right in the middle of 16 on the ledge, and it starts rolling. It starts like going down to the hole, and it didn't go in, but it was not that far off. And I was thinking about how like that 10 seconds has to be like the best 10 seconds of your entire life, because that it takes a long time, and the ball is gonna fall that way. And so all you're thinking about is like, did I just make a 1 at Augusta National in this? Yeah, I mean, it's got to be like the most like, just I don't know, the craziest thing to like be feeling as your ball is rolling toward the hole.
That's the Sunday location, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, because I vividly remember sweating out no hole-in-ones for the week bets, and
that's a dangerous one.
That's a fun one because they cut to that probably a dozen times with nobody's playing it, because they're going through him in corner, and you just watch that ball trickle towards the hole.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago, DeChambeau.
Yeah,
JT did it recently. That's when you're in trouble when they go. Now to Scott Stallings on 16. You're like,
Scott Stallings.
No.
Oh
no, he made an ace.
The Jim Nance moments ago.
Yeah.
When did Scott Stallings last play in the Masters?
Well, good thing.
Had to be a while ago.
How did the Scott Stallings? Somebody asked me how the Scott Stallings thing started. I thought it was I thought we tried to guess who was the exact number 100 player,
Yeah,
and
that
then
might have
it
been
just went from there.
2018.
Okay.
No.
Oh, wait, sorry.
realize-
That was the U.S. Open 2014.
2014.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say 14 because isn't that when he like didn't he win Tory or something? Or he
In
almost
14?
won Tory?
Yeah, no, he did win Tory. January 2014, one shot over KJ Choi, Jason Day, Graham Dillette, Mark Leishman, and Pat Perez.
That feels like a long time ago.
Who's the current number 100 player in the world? Oh,
Did we talk about him today?
no, but it would not have been out of norm for us to talk about him today. That's
Because he's playing this week.
no, he's not.
Okay. Because he won this event at some point. Brian
Give it
Gay
to me.
and Brendan Todd.
Brendan Todd's the top one.
Let's
number 100 player in the world. That's so good. Yeah, exactly right. Brendan Todd.
That's awesome. What a way to end the podcast.
That'll do it. Big thanks to producer Jacob. Does all the hard works behind and in front of the scenes. That's Kyle Porter. You can find him on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.